Hello, YouTube. This is HunterSerge of the Brawler Cafe, bringing you a probably relatively short, as short as I can manage, discussion video regarding the GameStop events that just occurred and the state of LGS stuff, what we know currently. So with me today, I have Letherna.
Hi.
Another member of Brawler Cafe. He will be joining me in Nikon with making videos for the channel in the near future. And I thought this was a good time to introduce him to you guys because unlike me, who is a filthy Canadian who does not get non-kid centric events, Letherna was able to actually go to the GameStop event. Had one of the better experiences of people who went to the GameStop event, from everything I understand. Like actually other people existing.
One other person, but it's better than zero.
Yeah, better than zero. And you have some. You're the person who Justin and Yeri directly talked to and told about some LGF stuff that I want to touch on as well.
Correct.
So,
yes.
To start off, I'll just hand it over to you to talk about how the GameStop event went for you.
Just like in the general sense.
Yeah.
Well, got there at 2 because I thought that was going to be when they would give stuff out. Found out later that apparently some locations had just given out the cards earlier, which was interesting. But I got all the cards I wanted anyway, so that wasn't too big a deal. We were all supposed to meet up there, me and 2 other people that play locally, at 2 exactly. I was there about 10 minutes late in traffic, and then they were there like a half hour late. But I did manage to run into someone else there, Briar626 on YouTube. Didn't know he was local, but we got some games in, got the promo cards. It was a good time. The employees were not really given advance notice of this event, unfortunately. They were effectively told about it the night before, so they didn't really know what they were supposed to be doing for it, which was unfortunate, but, they cared. It wasn't apathy on their part or anything. They just didn't really know what was supposed to be happening, or even necessarily that something was happening, at least in a couple cases, from what I've heard from other stores as well.
And there was one thing that Briar said in his video that you want to clear up, right?
Right, yes. Almost forgot about that. That's an important thing. Briar mentioned that the promo cards were obtained from, you get one promo card for each Bakugan you buy. Yeah, that was super, super not what they actually did. That was a miscommunication that one employee said and thankfully did not enforce, because that's how they thought the event was supposed to work until they actually found the paper they were sent explaining it. Yeah. Promo cards were not tied to having to buy things. Also, they didn't have a whole lot to buy because it was all Battle Brawlers Wave 2 and 3 and nothing else.
Yeah. Actually, this is something that I've actually been curious for a bit. So, up here in Canada, the Bakugan that are sold at EB Games, which is, of course, our GameStop,
right,
are actually upcharged a bit, and they are charged at the normal price if you have the Edge membership card. Is it similar down the States?
No, not at all. I think they're like a couple cents more. Like,
okay.
Sometimes it could be like $9.99 instead of, I don't know, $9.87 or something.
Okay.
But there's no sort of membership discount that puts it back to a normal price.
All right. Is there just no membership discount at all at the GameStops in the States?
Not that I am currently aware of.
Okay.
There might be, but it's been a long time since I've gone to a GameStop for video games, and for this, I know I don't have a membership of any kind right now, so...
Yeah. I used to have a membership card, and it's just, hard not to notice at the EB Games up here, because, everything will have its price tag, and then right underneath on the same slip will have the Edge membership.
Oh, yeah, we definitely don't have that. There's not, a price tag on the shelf.
Yeah. Okay, so, what... so your experience is pretty similar to what I've heard from basically everyone else throughout Facebook and Reddit and all the other Discords. Everyone's reported that they and it's something that's actually pretty odd that seems to have happened. Is it seems like it's been more common that the stores that did get a bit of advance notice, like a week of advance notice, as opposed to a day, were the stores that in no way had space to run the event, which is bizarre.
Right.
But
Because
you know,
I'm not sure. I didn't get a picture of it. I'm not sure if you know how big like the smaller GameStops are down here.
it's been a long time since I went to an EV Games that isn't the one in my mall, and the one in my
Right.
mall is pretty big.
It's very, very small. Like, it's about the size of like 2 aisles in a larger store, if that makes sense. Like in width, maybe 2.5 or 3.
All right.
There's no empty space on the floor to put a table for a thing at all.
Yeah.
Like, there are tables there already, but they're there to sell product that they can't put anywhere else because they don't have space in the back either.
All right.
Very, very small.
The big thing I want to emphasize, though, is that while I know a lot of people are getting upset at Spin Master for this, and well, absolutely, it would have been better if this was like a locals demo day thing.
Right.
I don't think, like, besides choosing GameStop in the first place, I don't think Spin Master is really at fault for any of the things that happened. Like, for example, this is supposed to be a demo day, like, and that's supposed to be teaching new people, bringing new people into the game. Spin Masters, sure, could have advertised it themselves, but ultimately that will have been primarily advertising to people who are already playing the game, and that isn't the target audience of this event.
Agreed. Agreed.
And I talked to, I messaged Kodok on Twitter, since I know he had gone to Pokemon GameStop events before, and asked him, hey, who did the advertising for those? Was it TPCI or GameStop? And he said it was GameStop. So I really think that the things that went wrong with this are ultimately just GameStop upper management's fault. They didn't inform the stores in time. They didn't send them like anything to use to advertise it, and there just wasn't, like, it just feels really mismanaged. Like, especially like the stores that were too small, like it only happened in select GameStop stores. So I don't understand why the small stores that wouldn't have been able to really run this sort of event were chosen in the first place. And that doesn't seem like the sort of decision that Spin Master would even be able to make at all. That seems the sort of thing that would be just completely left up to GameStop upper management.
There was also, anecdotally, another larger GameStop that I had expected was going to be hosting this event because their floor space was huge, and they actually like had empty tables set up for things. I guess there were other stuff, and then they weren't selected for some reason.
That sort of stuff was really, really bizarre.
And it's completely impossible to blame those decisions on Spin Master directly, for sure.
Yeah.
And like you said, it wasn't really Spin Master's role to advertise this.
Yeah.
And I would go a step further and say that, like, I wouldn't even really call it a mistake that Spin Master chose to do this with GameStop, to a degree, you know? Because it's a store that is actually able to sell the product right now, and pitching this to local game shops that cannot sell the product right now is really difficult.
Yeah, that's fair. But when I say call that a mistake, I'm more referring to the overall decision to not have the LGS stuff ready at launch.
Oh, of course, and that's certainly a topic that we'll get into.
Yeah. Before we get into that, though, the one thing that is Spin Master's decision that I want to talk about is the choice of promos, because a lot of people have expressed dislike that the cards that were given out were so useless. Now, my thing with this is that because they were hex, you couldn't make these common or rare staples, because doing that would tank the barely existent secondary market for those staple hexes. Like, there would be tons of those around, and it would just completely ruin that. And it would set a really bad precedent for any vendors that want to invest in those hexes. So in that regard, I can't blame Spin Master for what they did. Now, I don't think they necessarily should have made them hexes.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Is that I feel like if these had been non-hex promos, even still with the Bakugan Elite foiling,
yeah,
I think that these could have been at least slightly better commons and uncommons.
Yeah.
Like, things are more likely to see play, like, I don't know, Sifting Ashes, Chaotic Darkness, commons that have already had their value depreciated by being in starter decks.
Yeah.
You could have seen that, I think. But I do agree with you ultimately that because they're hex, we can't tank people's, and investors specifically, collection value this early into the game.
Yeah. The other idea that I thought of is if they really wanted to make them foil, what they could have done is they could have just made them character cards, or they could have done like some sort of foil Bakugan, like an event that actually just happened for the Takara Tomy game is an event where if you closed a level 5, because all the Bakugan in the Takara Tomy line are gradients along 1 scale difficulty. So a level 3 ultra closing difficulty for us would be level 5 closing difficulty in Takara Tomy. And they had this thing at the events they were running where if you closed level 5 Bakugan within 2 minutes, you would get these special golden Bakugans. So they could have done either hex character cards, which you can't get anywhere else. That wouldn't depreciate anything in value.
Correct.
Or they could do golden or foil Bakugans, which again you can't get anywhere else. Well, you can get them somewhere, but those aren't legal for play. So,
right.
You know.
But that is a good point you bring up, though, the fact that they do already know how to make foil Bakugans.
Yeah, yeah.
Especially, you know, on the Western side of things, and not just including the separate, I assume, separate manufacturing process that the Japanese printed cores are using.
Well, apparently everything's produced at the same factory, so...
I heard that about the Bakugan toys themselves, but have we heard that about the cores?
No, we haven't.
That's the only reason that I was, like, iffy on it. But, like,
yeah,
obviously, I know what you mean with the Bakugan for sure, and that's true.
Yeah. I really would have liked if like they did hex character cards, like
that would have been the best.
Like make the five main Bakugan of the awesome ones or something like that.
Yeah.
Oh well, missed opportunities. Hopefully they'll do something like that better in the future. And also, if they had done that, there wouldn't have been any need for any of the more hardcore players to try and nab multiple of those foils because they'd only need one.
True. Yes, that would save me a lot of trouble personally.
Yeah.
The one thing I will add as well, though, is that from what I've heard and what Ventus Knight seems to be saying, this is not a one-time event.
Yeah.
So, like, we have probably, hence the name Demo Days with an S on the end, more opportunities for them to iterate and improve on this eventually. Yeah. And hopefully, next time GameStop Ever Management will give these GameStop stores more advance notice so that things can actually happen.
Yeah. Though when it comes to the handling of the promos, it's probably going to take a while for GameStop. Like say this happened on like a monthly or bi-monthly basis. Improving the promos will probably take at least 4 months. Yeah. So
I mean, they've probably, much like everything else, already been manufactured in advance.
Yeah, absolutely.
They probably would have to like rush print different promos if they want to change the structure, like for the next one immediately.
Yeah. So, this has to remind me of I remember when I was going through the Bakugan Resurgence character cards, there were 2 Bakugan that were strangely at the tail end, specifically an Aquos one starting it off, and I theorized back then, because I believe those had
they had the symbol. Or well, it's actually that's not the official name. I should clarify that. It's super not official. Orless Action is why I keep seeing it called everywhere, but I should clarify that's not actually the official name of the set.
Yeah, I just refer to it as AA because we don't have an
right. Yeah, I should.
But since those had a different symbol, I theorized like, okay, because this was before we saw Body Breaker, I theorized, okay, maybe these are promo Bakugan that'll get given on an event. So it would be, I'd like to see those at a GameStop event.
That would be nice.
I also remember a couple of weeks before the GameStop event, Monty Kev had posted that GameStop was supposed to be receiving Bakugan to give out as well, and the Bakugan available were Ventus Pegatrix, Darkest Dragonoid. I can't remember the other Darkest. I can't remember the other two Bakugan for that. But I know Ventus Pegatrix and Darkest Dragonoid were two of them, and there were two others. I would really like that to be a thing, if only because it would allow people to obtain Ventus Pegatrix without having to get a 3-pack or 5-pack.
Yep.
Especially since Ventus Pegatrix is going to be very, very quickly increasing in usability as we get the magic shields over the course of the double magic shield Bakugan over the course of these next few waves.
Oh yeah. Hey, I called this months ago, man. No one.
Yeah. I didn't really register back then that this is actually only 100B less than Hail Titanilius.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah. With that, let's move on to the LGS stuff.
The fun topic.
Yes. All right. So I will hand it forward to you again, since this is the information that you have directly. So it wouldn't be right for me to introduce it.
I mean, you can if you want, but I'll go
ahead. No. Go ahead.
So, gosh, this probably back in January, when people were first asking, why don't we have immediate local GameStop support? The thing that I kept saying was the last actual TCG that Spin Master did that was in game stores was Redakai. And Redakai, for many reasons, did not do very well. It lasted less than a year. They got, I believe, barely into their second card set, and then it just disappeared off the face of the earth forever.
Also, a quick reminder that absolutely zero of the reasons it failed was it having strong LGS support.
Oh, of course. The LGS support was probably the only thing that kept it going for the 3 or 4 months that it lasted at all.
Yeah, if I recall correctly, it launched first in LGSs like a month or two before it came to retail stores.
I believe that's true. If it was not sooner in LGSs, it was at the same time as retail.
Yeah.
It was a very, very well-handled launch, for sure. Unfortunately, it was not a well-handled game as a whole.
Yeah. It would work really well. We were actually talking about this in the Cafe Discord the other day, but it would work really, really well as a digital card game specifically for mobile. Like, the field is small enough. There's very few counter timings that need to be worried about. And the problems that plagued its real version don't exist in the digital space because you don't have to actually physically produce the cards.
Right, because those cards were incredibly expensive because they were clear plastic and they were animated.
3D blast technology!
Yep. Redakai. But yeah, so I had said, again, months ago, was that, like, chances are the reason the Bakugan didn't make it into local game stores immediately was because of the way Redakai went. And I didn't have a lot of support for that opinion at the time. But then, last weekend... Sorry, what?
Not that the support didn't exist, because if any of us had actually gone back to the old Redakai videos back then...
Oh, yeah, no, the support existed, I just meant it wasn't incredibly widespread.
Yeah.
Like, I remember you agreeing with me. I don't remember, like, a lot of other people. Because it was like, a lot of people just kind of wanted to forget Redakai existed at all.
Yeah.
Like, the most common thing I heard was, Spin Master's never put anything in a local game store. It never happened. And I'm like, it has. We just like to pretend it hasn't. But it has. But going back to the point though, last weekend, well, not this last weekend where I was at the GameStop event, the weekend before that, I was in Georgia for MomoCon, and I got to discuss a lot of things with Justin and Gary. And I heard this from both of them separately, that they were also the same company that Spin Master hired to design Redikai. And as a result of that, according to Justin specifically, the reason that we did not get immediate local GameStop support, or Game Store support, was that because of how badly Redikai did, they advised Spin Master to make sure that Bakugan was a successful, profitable franchise before moving in that direction.
I honestly literally cannot fathom any TCG designer suggesting against local game store support immediately. Like, people need somewhere to play the game.
Yeah. You know, like I said the first time we talked about this, I can sort of understand where Justin was coming from in like being concerned. And I can also sort of understand a possibility that they could have even maybe discussed this with like bigger local game store chains that could have just told them no because of how badly Redikai went.
Yeah, I know that my store at least was like really worried about any new games after they got burned by Redikai.
Right, exactly.
Like, I remember that was a big effect for years.
Right, exactly, because it was just so not good.
Yeah.
The sales were poor, the price packs were high, return on investment was negative.
Yeah.
So, I feel like that may have also been part of it. Like, I feel like it's entirely possible they could have just outright been told, hey, we will not stock your product until we see that it's not a failure this time.
I mean, I don't really think I get the impression that I don't think local stores, like especially the ones that like since Redikai came out in what? It was like 2011?
2011, 2012, I should
Yeah.
think it was 2011.
Since 2011, like Bushiroad's entire foray into the English world, it all happened after Redikai went and died. And while they've had a few duds, they've had 3 games that have done pretty well for a lot of smaller stores, with very regular player bases. They're not super widespread games. But then also since then we've also had Force of Will, which despite collapsing relatively recently and having some problems on the investor side, still did pretty well, pretty consistently for a number of years. We have Dragon Ball Super. Like, there's been since Redikai, there's been a lot of new card games that have managed to survive a lot more. And then there's the fact that Bakugan is Bakugan. It has this huge brand name recognition. And I don't think any LGS would look at that name and exclusive LGS support, exclusive LGS products, and gone and turned up their nose at that. I cannot fathom that being a thing.
I mean, my counterpoint to that would simply be that, like, while we've had a lot of other games, like you said, that have come and gone, succeeded and failed, none of them have been by the same company as Redikai.
Yeah.
You know, and I feel like there might have been a bit of brand distrust at play in this.
That's fair, but also, like, my counterpoint to that is just it's Bakugan.
Yeah. Counterpoint. I think, and I've said this before, but I should definitely say this here now in the video on the subject. I definitely don't think that not having immediate LGS support was a correct decision.
Yeah.
I can sympathize with why this happened,
Yeah.
but I don't think it was correct.
Yeah. And I think but with that said, both of us do understand, like, I know a lot of people don't quite understand the logistics of setting up that LGS support, but I think both of us understand that because they didn't have that immediately there, there isn't any fast track to setting this up, especially with Bakugan.
Right.
Because like the whole point of LGS support for the LGS is to get people in their stores playing this game and then buying product for the game that they have.
Right.
And with the current setup of Bakugan products, the only things that locals could really stock is booster packs. Like the other stuff just takes up way too much shelf space, and a lot of it is very undesirable for people who would be more focused on the TCG. So that's why they very much need exclusive LGS products, which we know are happening.
Right.
But we can't just with this fumble having happened, it's impossible for that to just happen within the course of a few months. It's going to have to wait until the end of the year. And while that really, really sucks,
yeah, it does.
If any game is going to be able to survive that time, it's going to be one with a strong toy line to help prop up the sales.
Well, that's the big thing that I've said as well, because there's been, a couple times where people have been worried that, like, if we don't get LGS support by X date or by Y date, will the whole thing just die? And the answer is ultimately no, because even if the entire TCG side of this collapsed, people do still just buy these for the toys.
Yeah.
And that's a very significant.
And the TCG side of this hasn't been doing poorly at all.
Oh, of course not. It's been doing great. Like, packs have been incredibly good sellers.
Yeah.
Nothing has been selling poorly except for arguably certain redundant restocks of singles.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think across the board, we've seen that the packs have been the best selling of everything.
They certainly move the fastest in my area locally.
Yeah.
For sure. And the thing I would say as well, to come back to a point you made a moment ago, is that Justin said to me as well that local game shops need specific stock to sell because they need a higher profit margin on what they're buying and selling.
Exactly.
And they can't just charge you more, because then you'll go to the Walmart up the street and buy them there.
Yeah.
So it has to be product that's custom tailored to them, that you can't get somewhere else for cheaper, that will also properly, positively motivate you to buy it from a local game store.
Yeah. The big problem with, like, I know some people have said, oh, they can just do booster packs, but it isn't really all that enticing to an LGS to go, okay, I'm going to stock packs for this game and run tournaments for it. But for anyone to actually start playing it and to get any of the game pieces that they want to improve their deck, they can't get those here. And while there are going to be exceptions of LGSs that are willing to order in the toys, that's not going to be the majority of them. The majority of LGSs aren't going to be able to take that. And I think, as I said, I think the biggest thing is that a lot of the products in each line of singles or 3-packs has a lot of things that are undesirable to people who don't care about them from just a toy aspect.
Right.
And for LGS, those things are just going to sit on the shelves, taking up a lot of space.
Correct.
And that's where I think the big problem with the profit margins for an LGS comes in.
That's also definitely part of it, yeah. The one thing I would point out, though, is that, like, we know it's not entirely impossible for LGSs to have, like, miniature toy components to their support games. Like, the name's escaping me. Star Wars Armada and Star Wars X-Wing are both very, at least at my LGS, both very well supported. And, it's not a ton of space, but they do manage to set aside, like a shelf or 2 or 3 sometimes, depending on which one I'm going to, that can fit those physical products on the shelf.
Yeah.
In the floor space of the building. And obviously, you know, my LGS is a little bit, I guess, bigger than most since it's a chain. So I can't really speak for like smaller stores.
Well, when it comes to miniature stuff like that and Warhammer and stuff like that, well, I'm not sure if Warhammer quite fits in the same category, but like,
Yeah,
I don't think when a store orders those things that they have to order like a whole case of that contains stuff that that their customers might not want. I'm pretty sure they only like order like a specific product that they want.
correct. That was that something Justin mentioned in an interview, like for local game store support a while
I
back?
don't
Like,
think so.
there was an article about like them making
Are you talking about the ICP2
individual,
article?
where
Yeah.
they're talking specific
Well,
UPC.
he didn't mention that specifically, but that is where he confirmed. I made a video about this back when it happened because it was very exciting to me.
Yeah,
That they were making products that would be exclusive for LGSs.
right. But I mean, I could be totally wrong here, but I also had interpreted what he was saying as meaning that they were trying to make sure that each individual Bakugan had its own individual UPC that stores could specifically order. Maybe I read too much into that.
Yeah,
but
I
I
don't think
kind
he
of
said anything along those lines.
I don't have that article.
I have it open. I just got it open right now.
Yeah, it's fine. Just edit that part out.
It's fine.
Fix it in post. Everything's fine.
We'll fix it in post. But the last thing I want to talk about is general ideas for like what we would hope for these LGS exclusive products. The big two things for me is like I think that the line needs to be consolidated into just a few products, like booster packs, an entry product, and then a product line for obtaining Bakugan. For that third one, I think that needs to be blind boxes. There's a lot of things that would be perfect about a blind box system. For one, we know this sort of thing works because it's something that Sega Toys did with Japanese Bakugan a lot.
Right, during the Bakutech series, correct?
Yeah, and when they were doing New Vestroya before Bakugan started, I believe the Battle Gear compatible Helios was exclusive to that.
Really?
Or a bit at least, or something. Or like properly colored Helios was. Stuff like that.
Okay.
They had special coloration that they put in those. And you could do something similar with diamonds in these, and you could like put in ultras that you can only get in a battle pack or starter pack right now to give more access to that.
Or Core Ventus Pegatrix?
Yeah. Yeah. And it would be a good way to keep new Bakugan, old Bakugan that are seeing a lot of play in circulation. And this, again, in particular with Ultras, because with cores, there are tons of opportunities to reprint cores, but Ultras have had nothing.
We've only seen one Ultra that's technically been reprinted at all.
Yeah, that's Power Dragonord Ultra.
Because it's in a single and it's in a 3-pack, and that is the only one.
Yeah, that's the only case that we've seen one reprinted, and that's going to become a problem, especially with ones like Darkest Hydrus Ultra, that is remaining one of the most staple Bakugan, and it's exclusive to a battle pack.
Right. I mean, I would pass it even further, even to just things like Pyro Serpentis Ultra, that while they're not exclusive to a product, they're only in a Wave 1 single. And yeah. I don't know about you, but at least locally, Wave 1's kind of gone at this point, because that was 6 months.
Well, not for me.
Mm-hmm.
And not just because Canada's like perpetually stuck on Wave 2, just barely getting Wave 3, but also because like for example, grocery stores here in Canada just started stocking Bakugan, and they're only on Wave 1.
Oh.
So yeah.
Interesting. I don't think any like specific grocery stores are doing that in the States.
Yeah.
At least not that I've heard of so far.
Yeah. I was very excited about that though. Like, that's a good place to get it.
Hey, more opportunities for diamonds, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Um, and the other big thing I really, really want Spin Master to do is give LGSs a less expensive entry product.
Right.
Because $20 USD, $30 no, $30 USD, $40 Canadian just does not compete with the other things that are going to be on the shelf beside. And while Bakugan do have a certain cost, cards are super cheap to
Right.
produce. You can very easily bring the price of that product down to $20 USD. Ideally, I would like $15 USD slash $20 Canadian products, because that would be much more in line with what you see in other games.
Right.
Probably as an LGS exclusive thing. And the other thing is, I would really want star decks that are being given to LGSs be much smaller, because you can definitely make that product much smaller, and the current one is going to take a lot of shelf space.
Right, like a smaller box.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
I think as much as I want that to happen, I'm not entirely convinced that it will. I feel
Yeah,
like the absolute lowest we could possibly hope for would be a starter set with 3 core Bakugan, a 40 card deck, and they would hopefully sell it for $20.
yeah, yeah,
Um, but more realistically, they'd probably try it up to 25, which would still be a poor price point for competing with other TCGs. But I
yeah.
think the thing that somewhat has to attempt to be addressed is that this will never have a competitive entry point with regular TCGs because it's more than just the cards.
Yeah, yeah. But like, I think I think you can absolutely bring those star decks down to only be like a $5 to $10 difference from other card games.
Agreed. Yeah. Yeah, I think we can get close. I just don't think we'll get precise. I don't think it'll ever
Yeah,
be like,
I'm not expecting precise. Like, I'm not
yeah.
expect like I don't think a $10. I don't think Spin Master is ever going to do a $10 starter deck product.
Oh gosh, no,
Um,
never.
I
Never.
think I think it might be possible that Spin Master could like send out demo decks to LGSs,
I mean, yeah,
like
they
they
did
did
that
give
for
out.
Redica.
Um, that would be nice. They've done Bakugan giveaways at like theaters and stuff like that before,
Right.
so
Possible.
so they could potentially do that. Um, but I'm not expecting anything below $15 USD.
I think the other thing they could do as well, which would not completely solve this problem, but would somewhat cushion the blow of it, so to speak, would be for us to get, say, even if it was $10, just a 40 card deck that didn't come with any Bakugan, that you could buy your own of matching attributes to play with.
Yeah.
Because you'll like it
Well,
cost.
we talked about this before, and the point I brought up then and up again is that that kind of defeats the point of an entry point product.
Oh, of course, agreed. I just don't know how else we'll get the cost down to like a $10 range that it would be, you know, roughly equivalent.
I don't think we necessarily need to get it all the way down to a $10 range. Um, I think even $20 would be fairly acceptable. But ultimately, as a Canadian, I would
Right.
prefer if it got down to $15 US, because a $20 USD product is still going to be $30 for me.
Right, exactly. I mean, the $3 starter deck already kind of hurts, and it actually kind of hurts more now with the set 2 starter decks because those are
Oh, you're
not.
telling me those things are $40 here?
Well, they're also not really. They're not really for new players anymore. They're
Yeah, yeah. That's yeah. That those like, I know people are really excited about the Dark Fortune and Shin Kusami reprints, but like, Dark Fortune is in a deck that has no evolutions.
yeah, that's bad.
Yeah, that's
Bad.
really bad. And I'm also really worried. Like, okay, so like, So, like, obviously, the way to fix this is to, if they don't want to print evolutions early, then you just never put a starter set on a wave that isn't the first wave, or you just put them on the first wave of the set until you get the thing fixed where you start releasing evos.
Yeah.
All the evos are coming within that set's duration, which is supposed to be a thing that's going to happen, but also VK has been wrong before, so I'm not exactly sure how much we can really trust that, but
Oh, come on. If we say that, we'll never outlive the downvotes.
oh man. We'll get 66%, it'll be fine.
The other thing I was going to add as well is that, like, one of the things, and this was months ago as well, that I had talked about in regards to the idea of a $10 deck that didn't include Bakugan, was that it was unfeasible because it would need to include evolutions, and you'd have to go hunt the specific Bakugan, and that would be a disaster. And it would be a complete failure, and it would be just completely not worth doing. However, now we're at a point where these new starter decks also don't include evolutions, and I feel like that makes them fail as an entry-level product.
Yeah. Another thing that has me concerned about the star sets going forward is that the Bakugan Resurgence one we saw only had Bakugan Resurgence cards.
That too.
And while Resurgence has a lot of good cards, a lot of the core, like, B-power boosting stuff that you see in a lot of decks, outside of, like, some archetype-specific stuff, that all comes from Battle Brawlers.
Yeah, it's curious. I would definitely say it doesn't, and I could be wrong because this is not something that I, like, asked anyone. So this is completely a guess, grain of salt, not the word of Justin or Gary. I feel like Justin and Gary were probably not involved with the cards that win these decks.
I wouldn't be surprised. Like, I feel like the Chaos Howlcore one was, like, pretty deliberately designed, and, like, I feel like the fact that that's the specific one that the Takara Tomy line got is indicative of that. I feel like a lot of the others are just slapped together.
Yeah, I don't know. It just doesn't. It doesn't quite feel like they were involved, especially with this set 2 one. And the other important thing to remember as well is that, and you can correct me if I'm wrong here, I don't think I am, though, coming back to a concept we talked about earlier with the fact that Ultras don't have reprints, I don't believe any of the Ultras from the Set 1 Star decks got reprints either.
No, they didn't. But they all suck, so it's fine.
Well, okay, but Aqua's Caribbean doesn't suck.
Yeah, you're right.
So...
You're right. That is the double Magic Shield Bakugan with the most potential to be good. Because it has the highest speed power of all of them, and also it's Aquos.
Right.
And Aquos is, like, the best faction in the game.
This is a perfect storm of things that are all incredibly good. And, like, It's not even just that. There's also the Chaos Titanium.
Yeah. I mean, at least we can say that this starter set is good value overall, because you have 2 good Bakugan that so far are exclusive, and multiple good high rarity staples in there.
Right. But that's kind of the thing, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because this... Yeah. I will definitely buy it. And I love the product. Don't get me wrong. Like, this is not saying, like, oh, they made a mistake. But what I will say is that while I like the design of it because it includes things that make me happy, it is not really ideal for a new player. It's not good for a new player that's just starting the game and is looking for something to pick up.
Yeah, exactly. And eventually those first wave of star sets aren't going to exist anymore.
Well, of course, because, I mean, they only came 6 to a box anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
And most stores maybe, order 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 at most over the entire 6 months that this has been going so far.
And only 2 of the 6 in each of those star set boxes are actually good.
Yeah! I mean, okay, like, what was the other one? The Pyrus Hydrus Ultra one has a couple decent cards in it.
Yeah, but, like, the Chaos Howlcore one is just the only one that's structured like a real deck.
It's so much better, yeah.
Yeah. Like, it's to the point where it's it's far above what I generally get from star decks and other games, which is good considering the price tag. But the
Yeah.
other ones are like as bad as star decks and other games or worse.
I don't know if I've ever seen a game that had another starter deck as worse as the Aquos Gargoyle Ultra one.
Well, you haven't played. You must not have played the Pokemon TCG.
Oh no, are they that? Okay, see,
They're really bad. I think they're a lot better now, but they have a long-standing reputation of being absolute trash.
see, my thing is the only experience that I've had with the Pokemon TCG is playing a starter deck against other barely modified starter decks,
Yeah.
which has resulted in a lot of personal misconceptions about the game as a whole.
Theme deck tournaments are fun. One of the things I like the most about PTCGO is that they have these constantly running tournaments, and one of the most you can go in is a theme deck tournament. And those, I always have a bunch of fun in those.
Yeah, but I mean, like the way the constructed game plays is not the way this plays.
Yeah. You aren't going to be using anywhere near as many energy as you are in those theme decks.
Right. Like I just hear so much nonsense like, oh, here's this turn one combo to get the opponent to 0 cards in hand. I'm like, what? I take 4 turns to set up anything. Counter deck. What do you mean? How does the game work?
Yeah.
Are my cards just bad?
Old Vanguard products are actually almost like probably worse than that too, because like
Were
the
they?
only good cards in those. Okay, so the thing with those, have you played Vanguard actually?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I played it a lot.
Okay,
like probably
do you remember,
3 years ago.
do you remember the super old trial decks like before G?
Yes.
The ones that had exclusives that were one-ofs and everything else in them were trash.
I try to forget that specific.
So yeah, I'd say the Aquas Garganoid one is better than that because there's no good exclusives.
But Aqua's Garganoid is exclusive.
There's no good exclusives.
But no.
There's no good
No,
exclusives.
there's not.
I wanted him to be good.
Same.
If his Victor ability just lasted into the next turn.
It's so close to greatness.
Oh well. I have like 4 of that level right now in my binder.
I don't know how many I have, and I probably don't want to think about it.
Yeah. Probably better not to. All right. I think that's going to be it from us.
One thing I wanted to get in before we wrap up the video, real quick.
Yeah.
On the subject of things they should send to local game stores. This is theoretically obvious, but I feel like it should still be said anyway. They need to not send these cardboard blister packs to local game.
Oh yeah, obviously. They need proper booster box products.
We also specifically need proper booster box products with guarantee ratios, which we do not currently have.
I'm not sure that's. I'm not sure guaranteed ratios
are
particularly needed.
Am I using the wrong word? Like, you know what I mean? Like with how like a Vanguard box works, where it's like you'll get it.
Yeah, I know how Vanguard box works. Yeah. I know exactly what you mean, and like like that is generally a specifically Bushiroad thing. Like for most other card games, you won't have this specific number of cards per higher rarity that you get in a box, and you can't get any more or less than that.
Right.
Like that isn't a thing in most card games.
And
like it is. Let me tell you, it's exhilarating to pull 7 Bakugan elites in a box.
Yeah. I don't really want to lose that experience either. A lot of people that I've talked.
Yeah, that's why I'm against it. I haven't like. How many boxes have you heard of that like had less than 2 Bakugan elites?
The box I got at MomoCon only had 1.
Okay.
I
feel like it's a very rare thing for boxes to have any less than 2 Bakugan elites.
Yeah, no,
that's a solid number.
That's
about the number I expect.
I'm definitely not complaining about the current ratios at all. I've been very happy with what I've managed to pull. The only thing I was saying is the only reason I brought that up is that a lot of people I've talked with locally have expressed that they like that system and would like to see it here.
Yeah.
And I feel like if we kept our current ratios in those blister packs in, chain stores, it would be acceptable in theory to give local game stores those ratio-based boxes.
Yeah.
Because both sides of the coin can get what they want.
I don't know. I feel like the people who are going to get the most out of pulling an obscene amount of Bakugan elites are the people who are buying boxes from their locals.
Yeah,
so I honestly think locals stand to gain a lot more if that system is maintained.
Not. Yeah, I didn't. I should have thought this through better before saying it. Because now that I think about it, like if the guaranteed ratio is worse than the average from other packs, then no one will buy it at local game stores.
Well, I just mean
that's a huge problem.
I more just mean that the people who are going to really get a lot of the experience of opening boxes and potentially getting god boxes are the people who are going to be primarily buying from local game stores.
Agreed. Yeah. Fair point. I do definitely still want them to not be cardboard blisters, though.
Yeah, that needs to go. That absolutely needs to go. That's literally only a thing because, like, if I recall correctly, like retail stores mandate that because, like, otherwise it's a lot easier.
Yeah, it's a theft thing for sure.
Yeah, and you don't need that in LGS.
No, you definitely don't, because they keep most of that stuff behind the counter anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
So you can't really just walk out with it.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I think that's going to be it for this. Left, before you go, would you like to maybe talk about what videos you'll be bringing to the channel in the near future?
Sure, of course. At Surge's request, I will be finding where I put the cards that were in my Battle Ballers version of my Fury deck and doing a profile on that. Might take a moment of time because a lot of my stuff is horribly unsorted after MomoCon, but it'll be coming. And then very shortly after that, I will do a video on the current version of the list, updated for Resurgence cards, and, give a rundown of how that did at the convention. And roughly, where it sits. Not in the meta, because that still doesn't really exist.
That's very, very unestablished.
Yeah, but, overall in the general state of things, what did it do well against, what did it not do well against, and then, people can make their own conclusions from that.
Yeah.
Because that's all you can really do right now is say, well, this deck seemed to be favorable against this one, and this deck seemed to be unfavorable against that one, stuff like that.
Yeah. And you also said you'd probably be able to get some match, right?
Well, the most eventful thing that happened on last Saturday for the GameStop event was not necessarily the GameStop event itself. It was that I went to my local game store on Saturday, when I usually go on Friday, and stumbled across 5 more people that play Bakugan.
Yeah.
I just walked in the door and there they were. And I'm like, oh, hello. So it'll be a lot easier to record gameplay now that there's 11-ish people in my area that play the game. And I may start recording some stuff as early as this weekend, because we're supposed to be all meeting up on the same day this weekend to get some matches in. And if I can get a camera set up in a way that's not terrible, I'll definitely be recording that.
All right. Also, I believe Briar said in his video that he recorded matches against you.
Yeah, he recorded some games at the GameStop event. You'll get to watch me miss horribly.
Yeah, if it wasn't for apparently how badly that game went for you, I would almost say maybe we should ask Briar if we could do a commentary version of that match to upload here.
I'm pretty sure it was only 4 turns long.
Yeah.
It
had been a better overall game.
I missed 3 times, had to fix one miss with a reroll, which I did at least fix. And then on turn 4, he Evo Tritonium, discarding China Riot and Shadow Coil, and I believe the damage total was like 30-something.
Oh no.
It was a very good game from him and a very poor showing from me.
He only runs like one Tritonium Ultra Evo.
Huh?
He only runs one of that Evo.
Wait, really?
Yeah, he only runs one!
I thought he had 3!
No, he has like 5 total Evos.
Okay, I'm gonna have to, because I know he did a video on it, and I've watched his videos in the past. I need to get caught up with what he's done again.
But yeah, if you guys are in the same area, maybe you could meet up again.
Yeah,
match,
for sure.
Hopefully go better and get that on the channel.
Yeah.
That'd be good. That'd be neat.
We'll probably, I guess, both upload it. He'll upload it on his end, we'll upload it on ours.
Yeah. As for me, as for my content that will be coming in the near future, the Aurelius Hypertrox video that I promised will be coming very, very soon. I want to get a bit of testing in with the Paris variant because like that one's my focus with that video is basically going to be going into, okay, how do you go about building this sort of deck around this Bakugan?
You have to tell people how to do that?
Okay, you really need to calm down about this deck. Because, okay, I tested it, and while it does do some ridiculous things, it is not super consistent even with the Darkest variant.
Listen, I just don't like the card. I don't like the card, I'm sorry. It's a similar vein of why you don't like Orla's Titan Dragonoid Ultra.
Okay, but it's not the same.
It's not the same!
Orla's Titan Dragonoid Ultra doesn't force you to drop, like, your whole hand.
Okay, but, like, also... It's so just completely uninteractive to get over an Orla's Trox Ultra or Trox Core.
Yeah, but it doesn't ignore your flips.
But I don't have any flips!
That's your problem for running an aggro deck.
Listen, you're right. It is my fault, and you should say it, but... Counterpoint... I'll fix it with my eventual Mono Darkest list whenever we get Orla's Hyper Dragonoid Ultra that can actually hold a core.
Yeah. So will the Aurelius mold of Hyper Drago Ultra be sold as Hyper Drago Ultra? That's the real question.
That is the real question. I feel like they're still going to call it Hyper.
Yeah.
And then...
Are they going to contain Titan? Are they going to release Titan with it?
No! It's an awesome rare! They'll never do that!
I feel like they've done that with something.
I thought that Wax was in one. It's not, though.
No, they did, like, Shadow Breath.
That was an SR.
They might, or maybe...
Shadow Breath was an SR, and Shadow Breath was
maybe
a flip.
In set 3, maybe there's a set 3 Hyper Aurelius Dragonoid Ultra, and they'll package that.
Do we really need a cheaper version that counts as all factions?
No, we don't.
Do we? Are you sure?
I think what Spin Master's mentality would...
I think their mentality would be that it's a Dragonoid and you'll buy it whether it has an Evo that correlates to it or not, and they're right.
Wait, is that... Maybe this is why... Hyper Darkest Dragonoid Ultra is in Bakugan Resurgence despite not being in any of the Wave 4 products.
Wait, maybe
they're not actually releasing the normal Darkest Dragonoid Ultra. Maybe they're just releasing the Darkest Hyper in Wave 6.
Yes, that is the currently accepted opinion.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
I think the same might apply to the Chaos one? Maybe?
Yeah, maybe. But, like, we don't have something like this. We don't have an ID like Darkest Hyper Dragonoid Ultra in with Darkest Dragonoid Ultra not existing in Wave 4. Like, Chaos Dragonoid Ultra just doesn't exist right now.
Yeah. Well, the other big thing is that Darkest Dragonoid Ultra, I believe, is the only one in this set that gets a non-Diamond Evo that isn't in the first wave.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. That's what I was
Yeah,
saying.
which is weird because
Yeah,
the hyper
that,
isn't in the
that
first
was
wave
my point.
either.
Yeah,
Like neither of them are in the first wave, so even if we do just get the hyper, it's still a little weird.
yeah.
But I do hope we get the hyper because it'll be a
But
functional.
like, if we get the hyper, it would be like, okay, so the reason is because they were going to release this within Bakugan Resurgence, and they wanted to package this in, even though they released Body Breaker from the next set in a Wave 5 single. But hey, don't think about that.
Just don't think too hard about that. I mean, I think it's also important to realize that like if that card had been good, that would have been a disaster.
What card?
Body Breaker.
Oh, yeah.
Because Orl's Paravian is like 99.999% one to a case.
Yeah.
If
It's
you
irrelevant.
need
That's
three of
the
the
way
card,
always is.
well, the Orless
Well,
Vice might be two to
Trox.
a case in this way.
Trox. Don't forget. Trox.
Listen, I saw so many Orless Trox or Orless Vice Trox Ultra at MomoCon. I feel like they were getting two to a box.
Oh, right. There are two in that wave.
Correct.
Right.
I don't know why.
Yeah, that's a thing.
It is a thing for the first time, I think.
Yeah. Okay.
And I really, really feel like that Vice Rocks was two to a case because it went up on the shelf more than like non-Orless things did.
Okay. Well, it could also be that people weren't really buying it, which is also something I heard.
No, they did sell. Like,
well, like not as much as like Paris Nobilius or Hydronoid.
I mean, yeah.
Like, hype
Paravian
overall
was the biggest.
much lower for Aurelius Vice Rocks. Well, I understand.
Yeah, that's fair. Although, like, I have hope for his Evo. Because the base form is so incredibly boring for an Orlist, I feel like that has to be compensating for something.
Well, you know.
It could just be bad.
Like that. And we've had cases like Aurelius Hydrus and Aurelius Manthanoid, so.
Yeah. We also very recently had Darkest Pegatrix Core, which is like, oh, surely that's getting something to compensate for it being base 200, right?
My God. I really dislike Darkest Pegatrix Core and Pyrus Pegatrix Core because they broke the pattern of the Pegatrixes being like great core-centric Bakugan.
They broke the pattern of them being good, let alone great.
Yeah, but like every Akos, Aurelius, Ventus, and Chaos were all core-centric Bakugan. Double cores except for the Magic Shield one, which is Ventus, and all very good for those core types. And there were specifically two core types that still weren't covered: Flaming Fists and Helixes, with two remaining Pegatrix factions, and they didn't do it.
Nope, you get nothing. Sorry.
Yeah, you lose, sir. That's unfortunate. Okay, so back on my thing about my upcoming videos. Also got the buyer's guide coming up. I would prefer to know all the details about what comes in the Wave 4 starter packs, but no one, despite showing up in Australia, people don't seem to be opening them yet. So I think I'm gonna have to go without that info.
It almost kind of feels like a lot of people just don't really want to pick them up. Like, people that have seen them have not been incredibly enthusiastic.
Yeah, well, there aren't like the only one with a good exclusive is Aurelius Dragonheart Ultra, and people have had access to it.
Well, I mean, that's not the only one. I think it's the most important one. But like,
I can't think of any other that has any good stuff.
Okay, listen, it might not be good, but I want to believe. Hear me out.
Is this going to be about Pyrus Tertonium Ultra?
No, I'm not gonna. Okay, I mean that technically also counts, but it's not the one I'm going with right now. That's hilarious if you just spam rerolls onto that and blow up every single one of your
man, I wish he wasn't 8 cost. That's such a cool effect.
The one I was gonna say is actually Aqua's Core Mantanoid.
Oh right, he's exclusive to one of those.
It's exclusive to Pyrus Dragonoid Ultra and Core Vintage Trox.
Yeah.
I'm very already immediately sad about the contents of that pack, but somehow I'll survive. Also, isn't Ventus Titanium Ultra also exclusive to one?
Yeah, but Ventus Titanium Ultra isn't the one that's good.
But both Titaniums have the exact same Evo in Ventus.
Yeah, but okay, so that Evo isn't particularly good. Like I
I
mentioned
mean,
the
the dream
force swapping effect, but it needs to be like to build a deck around that. You need to be able to access it from immediately. So like for that to be a proper deck, you can't need to Evo to get access to it outside of Aquify. You need to be able to have that on base forms.
I think you could attempt.
And the other thing is like Ventus Tritonium Gore is the one with double Helix and a bonus effect on Helix, and its Evo that's currently out as a diamond, so it still has a shot for a really good Evo.
That's incredibly true.
That's probably going to get a Helix one. So
yeah. Listen, I want to play double Tritonium Antinoid and just be as annoying as possible for like a game before my opponent literally sets my deck on fire for being.
I was actually giving that idea some thought earlier today, but then I realized, wait, if you to get access to this, like it's not worth building your deck around. You're going to hamper yourself too much in the early game.
Yeah, I know you're right. I just wish you weren't.
Yeah, I get it.
I mean, I'm probably going to try it anyway for funds, but it's not going to be incredibly competitive yet. Probably.
Yeah. If we start getting down base forms, then that idea has a lot of potential. But for now, with it logged onto Evos, it just doesn't really work.
It's as close as this game has really gotten to like the absolute ceaseless waking nightmare that was lowest G wins in the original game, which kind of makes you want it to never be good.
Yeah, but it's actually a super cool concept, and it has tons of play with stuff. So
yeah, no, I like
it a lot.
Here. I also think that this is much more interactive because, like, if your opponent swaps a bad core on you, you can still just reroll onto a better core.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and
then the player playing it has their own counterplay by using their own reroll.
Yeah, to swap the cores back.
Yeah.
Every game will come down to how many rerolls each player drew, and whoever drew less loses.
Yeah. It's fun.
Yeah.
Oh, no. At that point, what you do is you deliberately use Buck on their bad at picking up cards. And then they're stuck with the bad core.
They can't swap. Hey, listen. That means I can finally play my Orlish Dragonoid Ultra.
Yeah! All right. I think we've gone on for quite a while here. Thanks for listening, guys. This is probably more closer to proper podcast length than I actually intended. But
okay, we'll fix it in post. Just edit out like 80% of it.
I mean, I did plan back in February to do a podcast thing, and then I was like, "Hey, we should record the GameStop video together." And it was like, we've probably been going for like 40 minutes or something.
Oh yeah, this has been a while. It's been a good time though. This was a good time.
We've been going for like an hour.
Oh no!
Craig started recording at 9:12.
Oh no! It's been 70 minutes. All right,
podcast.
So your job is now to edit this down into a 10-minute YouTube algorithm approved video. Have fun.
Yeah, that's not happening.
I mean, I guess it could be like 2 videos. Like,
no. Well, for one, the algorithm likes longer videos a lot more nowadays.
Does it?
Yeah. Okay. The algorithm loves longer videos, like because it values watch time.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, that's why you'll see that's why there's a lot of podcasts and longer and long video essays nowadays, because YouTube reports that content.
Well,
and also lets you put more ads on it.
Well, yeah, there's that.
But we don't have access to that yet.
Soon.
Yet. We're very close. We have the watch time requirements. We just need to get to 1K subs.
Let me just go dig up my old YouTube channel real quick. I'll find it somewhere. I might take an hour to remember the password, but we'll get there.
Alright, so with that said, guys, this is going to be it from us. And see you guys later.